I like this energy. I like having more options for mid-ranger tablets in North America. Hey there, this episode of Some Gadget Guy is brought to you by viewers like you. All of the incredible people sharing content across social media and the generosity of my patrons at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. More info on those awesome nerds later in the video. The folks at OnePlus sent this my way to test drive and review. This is the OnePlus Pad Go 2, and they equipped it with the new Pad Go 2 Stylo, a new pen, and a folio case. That case has a little spot for the pen on the case. It's super cute. The Pad Go 2 targets a middle spot for performance and price. Now, it's a clean looking slate. Adopting the flat sides aesthetic, it looks more like the newer Pad 3 than the older Pad 2. There's a really simple hardware setup. You got a power button and a volume rocker, and there's face unlock, but there's no fingerprint scanning, no pogo pins for other accessories, and we've got a selfie camera on the front and a rear camera on the back with quad speakers that sound pretty good. It's a big screen of compute power, a 12-inch display with that 7:5 aspect ratio, nicely high resolution for this price tier and with refresh rates up to 120 Hz. I think it's a pretty LCD with really solid brightness. I'm not gonna try and debate folks on LCD versus OLED. I personally prefer that OLED contrast, but it's silly to write off a nice screen. It's a nice screen. We've got some decent specs under the hood. Now, OnePlus sent us a guide listing the Dimensity 7300 Ultra as the chip inside here. Internally, the tablet lists an MT8775, which is also called the Dimensity 7300. And we just recently saw that chip in the Galaxy Tab A11 Plus. So many different versions of chips and names. I'm not exactly sure which permutation it is, but it seems to be a 7300. Paired with 8 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage in this machine, it's a capable setup. Though I will admit, I am a little sad that we don't have headphone jacks on our tablets like this, and I really wish we could pop in a memory card, just dump a whole bunch of media internally for the movies and TV shows and music we might want to consume on the go. But other than that, it's a capable setup. We're talking about a tier of performance that largely matches the most expensive phones from 4 or 5 years ago. That's a level of compute power that chips away at stuff folks might want to do on a laptop. I would say that the year 2020 is when we kind of crossed over and folks were crazy overbuying compute power on mobile devices. I think we're still in good shape today because what do we do on our tablets? What do we use them for? I really hate the apathy on tablets. You know, a bunch of nerds heard the phrase, "it's a solution in search of a problem," like 10 years ago, and they just kept clucking that out instead of actually looking at all the problems a tablet might solve. This is a sizable step up in performance over something like an Amazon Fire tablet, which makes sense given the differences in price. So there is more we can do with this, and you can drive it harder than slates we often showcase as nearly disposable e-waste tech products. Likewise, to be fair, it is a tier below the more expensive options out there, which more directly compete against laptop-grade compute performance. But in this middle space, we're treated to a lot more coverage, more of those daily tasks that we can accomplish. Not just we could do that on a tablet, but that it's honestly a nice experience getting that done on a tablet. There's all the basic things we can think of, like reading comics or streaming video. We don't need much these days to do that well. Web browsing, document work, casual gaming, we're stepping up to higher level use, and this experience is still nice. It's nicer than what we would find on a cheap tablet. If you believe benchmarking scores, it competes directly with the kind of horsepower we would expect in a student-grade laptop. So we can start to step into heavier workloads like editing a video. And then also getting some stylus support increases the potential use cases and makes for a handy little art experience. It's not pro tier, but it's a pressure sensitive pen, and some art apps, it's plenty capable. You don't want to overlook mobile. We've been getting more software, more apps that can take advantage of this mobile compute power, and even our mid-ranger chips are hanging in there well as a computer replacement? I'd love to hear down in the comments. Whenever a tech influencer says something like solution in search of a problem, what are the problems you solve with a tablet that us tech reviewers always seem to overlook? Hot takes, drop some comments down below this video, please. And the software helps quite a bit. OnePlus has been aggressively updating Oxygen OS, and the UI options here are fluid and fun. And we've got the expected split screen controls, but also gestures for multitasking and floating windows. This chip doesn't have as much on-device AI NPU power, so it's not doing the same tricks we've seen on OnePlus phones using MindSpace, but there is a fair amount of assistive tech, better handwriting recognition paired with smarter gestures to get to quick notes, things like partial screenshot actions. The tablet can do that trick where it selects for a subject, cuts them out of a photo. You can drag that to the sidebar in a folder and then drag that back into another app. Stuff like that just looks really cool when it's all gesture-based. And, my handwriting is terrible, but it manages decent conversion to text even for my chicken scratch. A lot of the other tools like AI Writer and photo editing are handy, but they require data connections to function. I still wish we had better disclosure on just which features are performed on device and which are worked on up in the cloud. But because there's so much cloud AI happening, if you like those tools, there's really no reason to go out and buy the most expensive and most powerful devices to use those kinds of features. When I talk about the premium tier, that's actually kind of a downside, but it's a nice perk when we're hanging out in the mid-range. When that information goes up to a server, all these devices kind of feel the same. Now, battery life has been solid. It's a less powerful chip and a tiny slice larger than the battery we had on the OnePlus Pad 2. When we're using it for that kind of daily use, web browsing, social media, streaming video, it hangs really well. You should easily be able to get 3 movies of streaming on a single charge. That charging, also respectable. Now, cheap tablets take hours to top off with 10 or 15 watt chargers. Really expensive tablets will often include faster, higher wattage charging. And the GoPad 2 kind of splits the difference. 33 watt charging ain't nothing to sneeze at. And the fastest supported charger is included in the box for the price of the tablet. You're buying the case and the stylo separately, and that's kind of my main gripe with the whole setup. It doesn't seem that this new stylus is compatible with the premium OnePlus pads, and the more expensive stylo isn't compatible with the GoPad 2. That's an annoying fracturing of your accessories. Someone might want a less expensive stylus for a nicer tablet, or maybe they have 2 tablets and they want to share a stylus between their more expensive and less expensive slates. The stylo makes the right compromises. I'm not bothered by the plug to charge the GoPad stylo. The tablet could charge the pen over a USB-C cable. The case has a slot to hold the stylo because there aren't any magnets. That's fine too. And in fact, it could actually be better attaching the stylus to the case and you don't lose it in a backpack or bag. I just wish the pens and tablets were cross-compatible. So, wrapping all this up, this is a nice mid-ranger tablet. We can look at this as some compromises from a more expensive slate, or we can look at this as some nice upgrades over a less expensive gadget. I think this gives us a great computer baseline. There's a lot of range. It does a lot of things well, and it's not gonna break the bank getting you there. So I will, of course, leave some links down below this video where you can find more information on the OnePlus Pad Go 2 Electric Boogaloo, where you can shop one of these bad boys online. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel. The sharing is super important these days, and I love getting to dig into something new. I love getting to test new chips and new products, different price tiers, and the folks who get to see the results of my testing and benchmarking and reviewing first are, of course, my incredible patrons. All of the people over on patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list of names scrolling by on your screen right now. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart. These are the folks that are helping to keep the lights on here in the Gadget Lab. They're basically the coolest tech pals in the universe, so I hope you'll check them out. I hope you'll consider joining the community at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy, basically everywhere, but these days, trying to spend a bit more time on the Mastodons, a lot less so on the Facebooks, the Threads, the Instagrams, almost none at all on that dumpster fire site, and I will catch you all on the next review.